Welcome back. So hopefully you've either turned in Essay 1 now, or you're feeling good about Essay 1 and you're ready to check out what else is going on this week. Um, well, here we are. I told you on the first day that a summer class moves fast, and it is indeed moving. Now that immediately once you turn in Essay 1, we are beginning work on Essay 2, which is really not so much an essay in the traditional sense, but the first step towards building the large 8 to 12 page research paper that is Essay 4. So the rest of the semester is really one process broken down into its most basic parts in order to teach you everything you really need to know about doing research and writing a long paper. Right? So we're going to begin that with Essay 2, which we call it Essay 2, but really what it is an annotated bibliography. So you may have done one of those before, you may have read one of those before, but you're going to definitely do one now. And we're gonna look in this video at what that is, at what the assignment for the whole research project is, and how Essay 2 begins that process. So let's go ahead and just jump right in and get started with that now. So in this video, you will find first the assignment for Essays 2 through 4, the big research project. This is probably going to be the most important thing we do in this video, because it's going to tell you what you're going to be doing for the rest of the summer, right? So pay close attention to that. We'll look at that here in a minute. Then we're going to talk about how to choose a topic and get started. You do need to do the preliminary work to select your topic by Friday this week, and we'll be talking about that on the discussion board. So be prepared for that. And I'll give you some tips for that as we, some highlights of the assignment sheet and some tips for selecting your topic. And then I'll also cover a few things to look for in this week's reading. This week's reading in the guide to writing and research at Oklahoma State University. The chapters that you read in there this week, 12 through 14, are all focused specifically on this large research project and Essay 2. So they're really helpful. And I'll give you a few just sort of like high points for things to be looking at as you do that reading in this video. So let's go ahead and turn now to the assignment for Essays 2 through 4, the big research project. This is the assignment sheet for Essays 2 through 4, which is now available to you on D2L. This is the large research project, the ultimate goal of English 1213, to have you write a big research paper that incorporates a large number and variety of sources in which you really become the expert on something and then make an argument about it. So that's what we're doing. In Essays 2 through 4, you will walk through the steps necessary to complete a large academic research project, just like you'll be completing in many other classes if you're a freshman or sophomore, or like you probably have completed in many other classes if you're a junior or senior. You're going to complete 3 written projects that illustrate your intellectual pursuit, that show the process, right? So each of these next 3 assignments is designed to build the large paper, which is Essay 4. It's a step-by-step kind of slowing down of the process so that we can really understand the process and understand the moves that we make as students and scholars in order to build an argument out of the research that we do. So you're going to choose your own topic here. Any topic you want is fine with me. There are topics that I'm not particularly excited about because I've read too many papers about the legalization of marijuana and things like that, and they're all pretty much the same and they're all pretty boring. But if you want to do that, that's fine. I encourage you to really think, though, specifically about something that interests you and maybe something that relates to your major. If you'd like, we like for this class to offer you something that goes beyond just this class. So maybe if you think about something that's related to your major and do some research about that, and that can help you in the future. But you don't have to do that. You can choose any topic that's interesting to you and approved by me, right? So once you've selected a topic, you're going to learn everything that you possibly can about it, and you're going to develop a stance toward that topic that will eventually lead you to an argument, and that'll be Essay 4. So your early research questions, and remember we've talked about what research questions are, and you've read about it, they're going to focus basically on just learning as much as possible about your topic. But as you learn more, as always, your research will help you narrow your focus and ask more specific questions. Again, the research will guide you, as we've been talking about these last few weeks. To get to that point, you're going to complete each of the following assignments. And again, these assignments are specifically designed to move you toward that argument, to sort of slow down the process of collecting sources and getting an argument by making you really think specifically about how things come to your mind and how they take shape. Right. So the first assignment is Essay 2, which is the annotated bibliography. And again, your reading this week will help you to understand exactly what that is, but here's the assignment sheet. Writing an annotated bibliography gives you the opportunity to read widely in your research area and to hone your skills while beginning to make connections that will inform the drafting of the final paper. Slowing down the process of finding and selecting sources allows you to work with the special skills required to find good sources and evaluate their reliability and applicability. And writing annotations helps you learn to summarize arguments concisely and cite those materials according to APA or MLA formats, whichever is most appropriate to your topic. So to begin with, you're going to search for reliable, useful academic sources of information, and we'll look at how to find those, building on the things that we've already learned in our pursuit of Essay 1, right? After acquiring good academic sources, you will compile an annotated bibliography of 10 sources. Okay, you're going to need 10 sources for this first one. No more than 3 of those may come from the general internet, popular magazines, and newspapers. Instead, you should find sources using those resources available to you through the library and other scholarly outlets, like maybe Google Scholar or something like that. After you have thoughtfully read and reviewed the sources, you will create a formal annotated bibliography using standard MLA or APA citation format, depending on which is most appropriate to the topic you've chosen or your major. Some of you are generally APA people. Those of us in the humanities were generally MLA people, but either one is fine. Your bibliography should provide basic information about the topics and reliability of your sources. So each annotation is going to be 150 to 250 words and include the following items: 2 or 3 sentences noting the focus of the source, the intended audience of the source, main and secondary arguments and conclusions, evidence used to support those arguments, 4 or 5 sentences evaluating quality, reliability, all these things about where you got the source, and 2 or 3 sentences noting any problems that you notice, things that you might use, and also, how you're going to use that source in essay 3 or 4, right? So these are just some basic requirements. Again, the reading that you're doing in the Guide to Writing and Research this week will give you further requirements and even some examples of what an annotation and an annotated bibliography should look like. So pay close attention to that. Alright, your annotated bibliography will cite all of your sources and will be formatted correctly in alphabetical order, double-spaced with hanging indentations according to the selected citation style. Underneath each source citation, you will include your short double-spaced annotation of the source. So that's what it should look like. You can see the sample in your guide. Here's your basic criteria. Be sure you're familiar with that and that you look at it. All right, that's Essay 2, and Essay 2 is going to be due July 10th. Right? There's no page length because however long it takes, that's how long it takes. But by July 10th, you have to have 10 sources and 10 annotations for each of them. So that's what we're going to be working on for the next couple weeks. And then that's also going to lead us into Essay 3, which is the research narrative. And just to sort of give you a summary of that right now, we'll talk more specifically about it next week. It's just going to be the story of your research, how you went from having basically just a topic and a few general questions to developing an argument, and that argument will be Essay 4, the big damn paper, which will be due the last day of class. Okay, so this is the full assignment sheet. You're welcome to read ahead and get a clear idea of what's coming, or not. Be sure right now you know exactly what's going on with Essay 2, the annotated bibliography. So let's look at some important things about that right now. Alright, some basic tips and highlights from the Essay 2 assignment. First of all, choose a topic that interests you. I cannot stress this enough. You're going to be working on this for the next 5 weeks very intensely because it's a summer course. So choose wisely. Choose something that is going to keep your interest. Choose something that you want to be an expert in, because that's the ultimate goal, is for you to become an expert on something. So make sure you choose something that you actually want to know more about. I think that might be some of the problems with some of those like boring topics that people always do. Is that they don't, after a while you realize you don't really want to be an expert in the legalization of marijuana or whatever. So choose something that's important to you. If it's related to your major, great. If not, make sure it's still important to you and interesting to you and something that you want to know more about. I cannot stress that enough. Second, of course, consider topics related to your major, obviously. That will help them be important to you. That can always work. Begin researching the topic, whatever it is. You have to choose a topic by Friday. And once you've chosen one, once you've settled on something, just start researching. Start doing as much research as you can. You can start with Google, you can start with Wikipedia, whatever. Use those things to lead you beyond them into more interesting and credible places. And then next week we'll talk specifically about using the library and how to find good scholarly sources there. Read widely. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to one or two websites or one or two perspectives. Always try to find that person that disagrees or that person that says something different. Play the believing and doubting game, which I mentioned in my blog last week. These are all important things. Read widely, read voraciously. Be excited about this, right? And then, of course, as you start to work on your annotations, you're going to choose the style that best suits your topic, right? And this is a basic summary. APA is generally used for more historical, scientific, or data-driven topics, and MLA for topics in the humanities, right? So be aware of that and think about that. If you're writing about, sports medicine, it's probably going to be an APA, right? If you're writing about, symbolism in the Harry Potter books, that's probably going to be an MLA. So, if you have questions about that, obviously I can help you out, right? Be sure that the sources that you find are reliable. You're going to start by reading widely, but you can move beyond that into the reliable sources, and we'll talk about specific strategies for that starting next week. Another requirement is that you're going to have no more than 3 general internet sources. You have 10 total sources, no more than 3 general internet sources. And what I mean by general internet sources is base stuff that you can just find on the internet. Obviously, I don't want any Wikipedia. I don't want you just citing personal blogs unless you're writing about blogging. But there are good sources on the internet. There, the .govs and things like that generally can have some good information. But primarily, I want your sources to come from the library. 10 total sources. Each of those sources will have an annotation of 150 to 250 words. Right, so that's basic stuff. So there it is. There's the beginning of Essay 2 and the larger research project. Hopefully you can get a feel for it. Again, the assignment sheet is up there for you. You can look at the whole thing, read through it. Let me know if you have any questions. Now we're specifically focusing on Essay 2, which is the annotated bibliography, the beginning of the process. You're going to start doing research. You're going to start asking questions. Of course, you have to start with selecting a topic. And again, I can't stress enough, select something that's interesting to you. This is the rest of your summer now, is dealing with this topic. So you want to make sure that's something that you are comfortable spending the rest of your summer with, right? So, for some reason the song Summer Love from Grease just popped into my head. I almost started singing. Anyway, let's move on. Essay 2 is the annotated bibliography. Your readings in the guide for this week, the Guide to Writing and Research, will cover more about the annotated bibliographies. So let's go ahead and look right now at some things that you want to pay attention to in those readings as you get them done and start thinking about your annotated bibliography. And then I'll give you your to-do list, which includes the discussion board. And the discussion board this week is where we're going to really start thinking about these topics and selecting them and helping each other get some ideas. All right, so here's some stuff to think about in your reading and your to-do list for this week. All right, finally, what do we want to look at is just some high points of the reading in the guide for this week. So you've already hopefully done your Norton Field Guide reading. And this is some stuff to look at in the Guide to Writing and Research. First of all, Chapter 12, which is one of my favorite chapters in this book. It's probably the best chapter in this book. Finding yourself, your stance, and your stake in the research you do. So pay attention to that, because that's going to, I think, give you some good tips as you're going through the ideas of selecting a topic, and then as you move forward with that topic and figuring out what you want to do. And considering your audience is also very important in Chapter 12. Chapter 13 is going to give you more information about evaluating sources. That's something we talked about last week. We're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about it every week. Things to look for in good sources, and then coming up with good keywords and search terms as you begin to do your research and find out more about these topics. And Chapter 14 is going to be very helpful for you, because it's going to tell you exactly what an annotated bibliography is, and it's going to give you the basic requirements, and it's going to give you an example of a good annotated bibliography. So this reading is very important. Make sure you do it. Make sure you take your quizzes. Make sure you pay attention, and you're learning from these readings, and that they're helping you develop your ideas and your essays. Here's your to-do list for this week. First of all, Essay 1 is due Wednesday. Obviously, that's the most important thing this week. Make sure you get that turned in Wednesday by midnight. And let me know if you have any questions leading up to that. Obviously, you're always going to read and take your quizzes. You're going to be thinking about several possible topics for Essay 1 and 2. What can you do with these essays, and what do you want to work on for the rest of this semester? And then as you start to develop some ideas, do a little preliminary research. See what you might be interested in choosing. Start asking some questions. Hopefully you can start to narrow it down by the end of this week, and then respond to the discussion board, which is going to ask you about the topics that you're thinking about, and which one you think is best. And then I'm going to ask you to help each other out, give each other some advice, maybe vote. Take a vote on what you think everybody should do, right? So we'll get involved in that discussion board over the weekend. And then blog and read my blog, as always. So there's plenty of stuff for you to do this week. As always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, let me know, and I will talk to you soon enough, I'm sure. Bye.